Working on the harbor, sometimes maybe. I always need to do the recording song, and then I'm gonna go to that.
He's not technically gonna show anything on the computer, so it's just gonna be on one side. Did everybody get a piece of paper? Okay, can I get you one? You might have stragglers, but you can go ahead and start if you want.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you all for having me in today. I am Tim Pryor with Spartan Ramjack Foundation Repair. I'm going to start this conversation hopefully with a little humor. All of you like sales. We like to generate the income, I'm sure, correct? So I'm gonna tell you my favorite Halloween joke. I know it's after Halloween, bear with me because this is my all-time favorite. There was a traveling salesman and he was one of the best in the nation. He could sell just about anything, was always top at the line. So he stops at a house, knocks on the door. Absolutely, the Grim Reaper meets him at the door, opening the door. Sickle, the whole 9 yards, the black robe. And the Grim Reaper looks at the salesman and he said, "I am death." The salesman, being a fast thinker, doesn't want to turn a negative, wants to turn a negative into a positive, says, "That's okay, I'll talk a little louder." And that's how we view things. Because each and every one of you has been in a situation where you've had a home inspection, you've had something go wrong with the client where this thing went south 6 ways to Sunday. I am not a great salesman, I'll tell you that up front. I've been an installer most of my life. I worked for a couple of waterproofing companies. I was a home inspector for 7 years from Morowski Home Inspection up in Springfield. So I cannot sell people stuff. My nature is to fix problems. All I can do is tell the homeowner the truth, the homeowner the truth the way I understand it to be. So all I can offer you, because you know there's other companies out there, is a free assessment with an honest evaluation. Does it need to be fixed or doesn't it? I've seen first-time home buyers. I swear to God, there's a crack in the foundation, which you've all seen. And usually I have two types of buyers. One that looks at that and says, "That's nothing." The other one says, "I swear to God, it's bigger from a week ago." Exactly. So, I tell them there's two things I know to be true in life. Concrete cracks, nobody steals them. That's just a fact of life. So if I'm looking at a house that's 50 years old, I'm going to try to look at it with a 50-year-old hat on. They're not buying a brand new house. If those floors creak when you step on them, that's called character. Now we can take that character out, but how much do you want to spend? So it goes back to the bottom line of money. What's it going to cost and how do we get it done? And why does it need to be done? Most of the time I'll tell people in houses that own the home, listen, let's do this preventive maintenance first. You've got negative gradient patterns of water coming into your home. You've got this and this. Let's fix this first, which is a very economical fix in most cases. It doesn't cost much. But then if it fails, well, then we know I'm teaching you right and not just trying to take your money. Because I've got other companies that go in and they'll bid $30,000, $40,000. And I said, yes, that's a correct assessment, but you're buying a Ferrari. Nothing wrong with that because they're selling insurance. They're promising that buyer, you're never going to have another problem. I can't sell insurance. I can just sell the truth. And again, the truth the way I understand it. So what are some of the things, because as peering, let's just talk about basics in peering real quick. There's two types of piers that we use when we pick homes up. Ramjack is famous for picking homes up. We use what's called a driven pier, and we use what's called a helical pier. What are the two differences? Well, if my body were to represent a home and I have a helical or a push pier and I have a shovel right here, the house, again, my body represents the home, the shovel represents the push pier. I use the home to push down and pick the house up, the weight of the home. If it's a helical pier, it's a gigantic wood screw, so to speak, that goes into the ground. Why do we need these two types? Well, if I have a porch, let's say a 8x12 front porch, slab on grade concrete, I can't pick that up with push pier because there's no massive weight. I've just got that little concrete slab. So that's where helicals would come into play, where we pick up with helicals. Rock foundations, if you're selling a house that has a 100-year-old home and it's a rock foundation, I can't use a push pier and pick that up and stress that foundation, because literally I'm picking that house up and doing this with the hydraulic push pier. We can't do that with a rock foundation, so we'll use helical piers. Those are the two main types of piers that are used in the industry. Now, Ramjack does poly lifting too. So if you have a sidewalk that has a trip hazard or a front step that is dropped, we can do poly lifting on that. That comes with a 5-year warranty in most cases, but there are stipulations to everything. For instance, if they're negative grade patterns and their downspouts need to be extended, we're going to tell them, you've got to get this extended to make sure your 5-year warranty stays in place. Because I've seen driveways, as you all have too, where it's coming downhill into it and the gutter drains right here, and this is already dropped down with my sidewalk right next to it. And they never fix their gutter. Well, it just continues to get wet, so it can fail again. So that's why there's stipulations on some of this too. And any good estimator should be telling you all of this, because it's what your customer needs to know. I always tell people, if you want to extend your downspouts out yourself, I'll tell you how to do it. Get out of your way. It's a 4-letter word, WORK. And I tell them here right off the bat, I said, let me explain how to do this real easy. I want you to work for a little bit and then stop and drink your favorite beverage. Work for a little bit, stop and drink your favorite beverage. And depending on the type of beverage you prefer, you might not work that long. So it just depends, but usually that's what it takes to extend downspouts. So when we walk around the house and we evaluate it, if you guys call me, you're going to say, hey, we got this problem. And I'm going to ask you lots of questions. How old's the house? Where's the problem? What type of your buyers? Because when I get there, I don't want to scare the crap out of them and go, oh, never seen that before. That's not the way you want to start this conversation out. So I'd like to say good at not scaring the buyer half to death, because you get the home inspector recommends a foundation specialist. Foundationalist comes in and says, it's $50,000 to fix this. Your buyer's like, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? But it's also a real estate transaction, so we have to be upfront and honest with it. So having said all that, I'm sure you guys have got stories or questions about certain things you've seen that have went south or left. What would you like to know about? Because the other thing we can do is crawl spaces, encapsulation systems, vapor barriers, sump pumps, helical tiebacks on retaining walls, as well as pickup houses. So again, I'm sure you all have had horror stories or things that fell apart. Let me walk through some of your scenarios if I can with you, instead of me just up here flapping my gums. So tell me something. Yes, ma'am.
All right, so we've got a retaining wall made of railroad ties that's failing, and the driveway is the concrete has cracked and starting to go down as well. So do you lift that? Do you replace the piers?
On that type of scenario, if it's railroad ties, and depending on, again, how tall they are, the driveway, where the railroad ties are sitting, that kind of thing. My first thought, how old is the railroad ties?
Looking pretty bad.
Yeah, they're gonna need to get probably, and that's where I would tell you a landscaper might do you more good in this particular area. Now, we would look at that concrete too, to determine how much is it dropped? Does it really need to be fixed? Because landscapers may come in, take those ties out and do something different, and it's gonna be perfectly fine. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, and on a different question, if you're gonna put foam underneath like a driveway that's falling, do you guarantee that?
5 years, up to a point.
Okay, what's that point?
Well, again, the downspouts, if we have negative grade patterns and there's downspouts right here, we're gonna recommend those get extended. If it does not have I just did one down here in Branson that I told the guy, I said, listen, I'm gonna bid it for this. but I'm gonna tell you straight out, I don't think we're gonna be able to lift it. He had a 30-foot driveway up to the street, and have you ever heard of, truss or concrete creep? Basically, when you got so much concrete and there's no expansion joints in it, that concrete will move. Just like a piece of steel. If you laid a piece of steel out here in the summertime, a long piece of steel and measure it in the morning, it's gonna be this size. When you measure it in the afternoon, it's gonna be this size. It's gonna be bigger. So the concrete will do the same thing. And I told him there's no expansion joint at the base of the garage. So this concrete is stuck up against this. I don't know what they've done, but I don't think I can lift it because it's gonna pinch right here. And sure enough, we tried it, we couldn't lift it. But I'd already pre-warned him because he had a belly in it where it was dropping like this, and that's where the water pooled. And then his next question is, well, what are we gonna do to fix it?
In
I
the
said,
driveway or the garage?
The driveway. As you came down the driveway on that slant, he had a belly right here. And he had a big retaining wall over here. And the water pooled right there, about an inch in the drive when he wanted that gone. And I told him, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get that belly out of this. And he said, how would you do it? And I said, the first thing, the cheapest thing is we try polyfoam and pick it up. If it picks it up, which I don't think it will, that's gonna be your cheapest fix. If you want to really fix it, we need to put a 6-inch trench drain all the way across. And that's not gonna be cheap because now I have to cut this concrete out, and I just don't cut 6 inches. I cut like 1.5 feet so I can taper it. I said, then we can try the polyfoam, pick that up because we've got relief in here now. And I said, but you need the trench drain anyhow because you've got negative grade pattern coming down. He didn't want to do any of that. We tried the polyfoam and didn't work, but did I charge him for that? Yes, I did, but I only charged him the very minimum for the, what we call a mobilization fee. And he knew that up front too. Good question.
Yeah, because on one of my properties, they use foam. And after 1.5 years now, the foam is deteriorating. It's not your company, but it's like, it's very difficult.
And we would come back and have I ever seen the failures on that? Yes, I have, but that's why a good estimator and even the installer should be talking to the homeowner about this. Hey, we can do this. It's a 5-year warranty. But understand, under that 5-year warranty, there's stipulation. The stipulations are these downspouts have to be extended. You have not extended them. I can't promise you anything on this, but we've come back and they did go back and warranty that once, picked it back up again, but stated again, hey, we can't fix this if you don't move these downspouts.
But it's not like it's not like bad foam.
No,
Okay, foam is foam.
yes and no. Companies are companies.
I'm sorry for all the questions, guys.
Yeah,
So you put foam to level a slab. You say a 5-year warranty, but you're going to make it known what the stipulations are at the time of purchase?
mhm. If there are stipulations, but the homeowner needs to know this too, because again, I can't tell you the compression ratio of that soil. So when we put foam in the ground, the other thing that happens is if we've got a break like this, it's drop. I always make sure and tell my clients, now when I pick that up, it's gonna crack. Because there's technically fissures underneath here, like my hands, there's fissures underneath here that you can't see. But when I start doing this, they're gonna be exposed. So I want them to be well aware of when we pick that up, we're awful apt to see minor cracking. It's already there, you just can't see it, it's tight right now. So that would be one of the things I'd want to talk to them about. I want to talk to them about the negative grade patterns of their yard, drainage, those kind of things. So we try to make it very clear, but again, God bless America, people only hear what they want to hear.
You don't know. You don't know that this foundation, you don't know what to ask. You just hope that everybody that's giving you a quote is actually giving you the right quote, so.
Correct, that'd be another one too. Yeah, but foam is foam, but it's based on all the things that you really want is not just the cheapest price, but you want a company that really knows what they're doing. That's the key. Now, how do you know that? We don't know the used company, time or two, or get recommendations from. So,
Good.
What would you do for a home that's over the years, the load bearing walls have settled down? And so now those sections are a little bit lower than the center of the living room or the dining room or whatever. and they've got a new roof put on, or they've done some new drywall. Now, if you go jack that up, you're gonna bust that stuff. What do you tell them? I mean,
That's
just
exactly what I
can't do
tell
it.
No, because like for instance, let's take a chimney. Brand new roof on a house, 2-story chimney. Chimney starts to move away from the house. They just put a roof on last year, but the chimney started to move away. I tell them right up front, you may want to get a roofing company over there to check your flashing before and after. Because if it's flashed correctly, we know it's got the flashing on the chimney, got the flashing on the roof, they're supposed to be independent of one another and move. So depending on how much that chimney's moved, when I put it back in place, even the shingles may need to be readjusted because they're not gonna hold right. If they've got a cap up there on it, it's, what do they call it? All the things I've lost, I miss my mind the most. Pardon me?
A rich cat?
Not a ridge cap, it's a cricket. A cricket on the chimney. Cause we got the roof coming down like this and the chimney has the cricket on it that comes down off of it. So we would talk to them about that, and that's where my job comes in, where I try to make it clear what could happen. I try not to be super, Debbie Downer, but they need to know that.
If it's gonna create too much damage, are you able to just stabilize it where it is?
Yes, we can hold in place, and our warranty, by the way, that's one thing that makes Ramjack. I'll give you one quick sales pitch on us. Ramjack uses American-made steel that's made in Ada, Oklahoma. They've been in business for over 50 years. They've patented items, and they don't buy anything for them. All that steel is made here in the United States. That's one of the reasons I like selling for them. The steel is 100% bought in the US, manufactured in the US, and made in the US, all of our brackets. So they do a lot of modernization with robots, but they've also got a coating on these, a powder coating that nobody else has, because we talk about the ecosystem. When we push our steel in the ground, most other companies push galvanized. When we push steel in the ground, it's powder coated, so there is no galvanization going into the ecosystem, so it's more green friendly, if you will. And that's about the only sales pitch I ever give people, because our warranty is the lifetime of the home, transferable if they sell the home. I always tell people warranties aren't worth the powder it takes to blow them up if the company doesn't want to stand behind it. But this goes into a warranty trust. It's almost like there's 3 companies. You've got Spartan Ramjack, you've got Ramjack Corporation, you've got the warranty trust. Once Spartan Ramjack installs it, it goes into the warranty trust. What does that mean? If my company were out of existence, the warranty trust would take over. Now, there's lots of bells and whistles you got to jump through on, but I've actually experienced that, and I know exactly what the bells and whistles are to go through. And I just tell my customers, yes, you're under the warranty trust. It's going to take a little time, trust me, but we're going to get to this. We're going to get it fixed, but you're going to get aggravated because it may take as much as 2 months. Because they're gonna have me shoot elevations again, and then I'm gonna come back in 30 days and shoot elevations again. Then I'm gonna turn in a plan of action for them, then they'll approve it. But they wanna dot the I and cross the T before they make a move on it. But you are covered, just bear with me on it.
Can you do them on lily pads on their manufactured homes?
Say that one more time.
If the manufactured home has been set for years and it's on, and the pillars are on lily pads, little circles of concrete,
Yes.
you know, and it's settled. Can you go in there and, or do you have to set new concrete and the whole 9 yards?
Each one would be on an individual basis, and I tell you that, because in my mind, what you just said is yes, all I have to go in is reassess and probably level with shimming. Not necessarily if that, because I'm assuming the outside on this manufactured home has a concrete foundation on the outside. They just got piers on the inside of it. I can do it both ways depending on what we need. We really don't want to have to cut a hole in the floor, put a helical in to pick it up, but that's another option too, because depending on what's going on, I can't answer the question 100% accurate till I see it. But a lot of times I tell
But you
people,
would just turn someone away because they're in a manufactured home as opposed to a concrete foundation home.
no, but I would be pre-qualifying them to ask him, when I get that kind of a lead, I always call the homeowner or the agent, and I would ask them, what are we trying to accomplish? What do you want? Because if they've got skirting around it, what are we talking about now? Or if because that's one of my questions, do you have a CMU block foundation? Do you have a concrete foundation? Do you just have skirting around it? What are you trying to accomplish? Because most of the time I'll tell them, if it's skirting, you need to call a trailer company and get them to come to you. They're gonna do it cheaper than I'm gonna do it. Now, if you need steel put in the ground, pick it up, or shimming, we might be able to do it, but more than likely, your trailer manufacturer installers are gonna be cheaper than I am. Any other question?
What is your turnaround time? So we have an inspection, we need to call you, like. Do you
That's
get
a
out
very
there
good
right
question.
away, or you put us on the back burner?
On real estate transactions, because I've been a home inspector,
Mhm.
I have told Ada, because Ada is the phone bank in Oklahoma where the home office of Ramjack is. I've already told them, you can't wait. If it's a real estate transaction, you call me. And most of the time, even I think Jeff is his name in here. Yeah, he knows, call me direct. Don't mess with the office. I'll put it on the schedule, but I need to know what's going on and I will get to you. It may be 6 o'clock at night, but I'll get to you. That's my promise to you. I'll do everything I can to get to it as fast as I can. I used to make the comment, if you want my opinion, it's free. If you want to report, I'm gonna charge you for it. I don't charge anymore. I ask, clarify, do we really have an issue here? And the only thing I would request of you guys, don't send me a pig in a poke. Don't send me something you know is just totally bogus. And if so, let me know that too. And that helps too, because I'll still come and look at it for you. But I need to know how to approach these things. Jeff called me on one that was a pretty expensive home with a detached garage. It's really got some issues. And the bid was $17,000 to fix it for me. And the homeowner, it's not Jeff's fault, but he's dragging his feet, you know. I got to him in, I think, one day when he called me on that one. So I will do my best if I know it's an agent, get to you as quick as I can. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I've dealt with Oklahoma, so I just want to make sure we have your cell phone. That's why I'm here today,
That's why.
to make sure I have your cell phone.
Yeah.
It's just feedback.
And I don't remember people at all. So you could tell me your name 500 times. I can meet you on the street. I'm not gonna remember it. You tell me, you worked on that house. Oh, I remember that house. So like I said, when you call, my brother was great at this. God bless his soul, rest in heaven. He would call and talk from the point of reference exactly where he was thinking. And I'd have to listen for a minute and go, what the hell are we talking about? So same thing with you guys. You're right there on focus. You're on point. You know what you want. Make sure you bring me into the picture. You know, I've got a house that's 50 years old, first time buyers. Those are real important things right there. First time buyers, 50 years old. Today's society, God bless kids, that they buy a house, they're entitled to everything, they're expecting to buy a brand new house. Everything's gonna work perfect. That's not the way life works. So those are information that's very valuable to me. Any other questions?
About waterproofing, what are you waterproofing?
We can do a lot of different things. Like, let's say you have a basement home that's leaking. On that, we have the option to come inside and we can do an interior drain system with a sump pump. Or we can do an exterior dig up from the outside, drain tile it, extend your downspouts and put it on. That's usually more expensive. But we can do all the above. It depends on what are you trying to accomplish again. Because I've got some people that think, even if they have cracks in the walls on the inside of the home, I can fix all of that. So it depends on, again, what do you want to accomplish? Because I got a young man just called me today that says, hey, my house was leaking like a sieve. It's got a crack. I cut the sheetrock out. Do you think we should dig that up and patch it from the outside? And I go, not if you already got the sheetrock cut out. I'd epoxy inject it and go with it. And this is a really nice young man, just had a baby. Well, it costs a lot in this day and age to raise kids, right? And I said, listen, I can come down and inject it for you, but I can also walk you through it and you can buy everything online if you're and he is a hands-on guy. And I said, I can teach you how to fix that yourself if you want to fix it. So those are the kind of things I bring to the table. My boss hates it when I say stuff like that, but it's like, it's not worth sending a crew out to do an 8-foot injection sometimes. It's just not. And I'm not gonna get them all. At the same token, I don't want them all. I want the ones that do, nobody else can do, that we can do. So waterproofing, outside, inside, crack injections. That's
Metal
important.
buildings?
Metal buildings? That's a good question too, because yes and no, because I've had a couple of them already that when I got there, it's a slab on grade, they got the metal on it, they got a negative grade pattern. Okay, I can put a French drain system around it. So what do you try, again, it goes back to what do you really want to accomplish? I just went to a house last night, the builder, brand new home, put what they call a 6-inch trench drain on the exterior of the home. 55 feet. And I'm like, why? And I said, it would have been so much easier to use a 1-foot bucket, dig this up, and then put a French drain system in, because he's on a hill. It drains. And I said, it would have been easier for him to do that, and then tie the gutter system in with a 4-inch solid pipe and put a perf pipe in with a bed of gravel, and you're never gonna have a problem. That's where this trench drain, it can clog up with leaves, it can have lots of problems that you're not gonna know till it's too late. We'll see what he wants to do. And I said, the crazy thing is, looking at, water's not smart, it runs downhill and freezes at 32, right? So when I'm standing there looking and turn around looking at his property and there's a hump right here, I'm like, why doesn't he just take 6 inches of dirt out to make this thing flow? Cause I got a big water pond right here. Cut this out, make it flow. Well, the builder doesn't want to move any dirt. I said, I don't care. And I said, all I can do is tell you what's gonna fix it. So I don't know where that's gonna go. I said, we need to let him have the opportunity to fix this. And I told the brand new homeowners, I said, we don't want to come out with a Louisville slugger and start trying to beat this builder up right now. We want to do it slow and steady. And I'll send you a report with recommendations of what we can fix it, worded very non-aggressive. And if he says, eat dirt and die, then we can become a little more aggressive about what's going to cost to fix it. But he deserves the right to fix that if he builds a good home. He'll want to. I just can't go up to him and say, you're an idiot for putting that 6-inch trench drain out there. It's not going to fix the problem. And I'm not going to do that to him. Does that make sense?
It sounds like you do a little landscaping, like
I do a little bit of everything, yeah.
Okay.
And I tell them up front too, you could probably get a landscaper in here
Okay.
and add some aesthetic beauty to your home. And with the money you're gonna spend on that, you're gonna fix this water intrusion and you're also gonna add value to your home. You don't really need me.
Why is it so common for houses to be built too low? I mean, where there's no runoff in this area?
I love that
Why,
question.
what's wrong with people?
Well, I always say this, how do I know how the human mind actually works?
Right,
And are you married?
yes.
Do you know how your husband thinks?
Really don't most of the time.
I have learned being married to say 2 words. Yes, yes. Because she'll think I can knock that wall out and have that fixed in one day. And I'm like, yes, dear.
No, I don't think that.
That's a load bearing wall. We've got to support it. We've got to do this. And she doesn't care about that. She just cares that we get it fixed. And so again, how as I know people, I always ask, what's your profession? One of the reasons I ask that is because if you're an accountant, you want the I's dotted and T's crossed. If you're a construction worker, you don't need to know how black cow eats green grass and makes white milk. You just want to know what's it going to cost to fix this? What's the warranty on it? That's what they want to know. So again, it helps me to understand people a little bit. Any other questions on problems? Yes, sir.
Well, I was gonna, Carolyn, we had a deal with Ramjack where it was a 25-day close time and there was a structural issue. And we were able to get it closed, we were able to get a bid and then a credit and close within 25 days. And Ramjack, you got me, I believe you were out there for it. It was the detached garage out there in Galena. So, and you guys were able to work with the engineers and get everything quoted to us in a swift amount of time, so.
That's Jeff's son.
So,
Yeah, that puts another one.
brings us full circle.
Well, we tried. And again,
But it was very quick is what you asked the turnaround time, at least as far as getting a bid. It was pretty quick.
and you said key words like an engineer was involved. I like engineers, but the same token, I've told them that's not gonna work. And they're like, well, what do you mean it's not gonna work? It's not gonna work because you bid the wrong style pier for what we're gonna do because it can't work for this. And they go, oh. Well, again, they're human beings and make a mistake once in a while too. So I'm not afraid to pull their feet to the fire if I think it's the right time to do it. But when we work with engineers, again, it's a good and a bad thing too, because they own that project once they sign off on it. All right, any other questions? What's some of the reasons, have you had crawl space issues? Let's talk about that for mold. What have you been taught for mold when you get it? Because that's a hot button, am I correct? Yeah, it's a hot button. So what are you told about mitigating mold?
Depends where the mold is.
Pardon me?
If it's white mold sitting on the, mildew, yeah.
How do you know when it's toxic botulism or not?
Are we talking inside an inspection period, or are you talking when we are
Yeah, your
looking at
home
the
inspector
house?
says you got mold. Now, where do you go from there?
Right, well, that's where you get a specialist in and try to define what that problem is and then get it.
What
Find a
causes mold?
source, okay, water.
Moisture.
And temperature, but.
Moisture. Mold has to have three things. It has to have the moisture, it has to have organic material to grow. And it has to have the correct humidity to grow. Mold has to have a relative humidity of 55% to grow. We can't stop the organic material, right? So let's talk about vapor barriers and crawl spaces. How many here like a vapor barrier? How many here dislike a vapor barrier?
I don't like it.
We like it.
I like vapor barriers.
Yeah, you're gonna get mixed feelings on all this. So that's why I said, tell me what you think. When I was a Boy Scout, one of the things that we learned is how to build,
You know, the vapor barriers.
and I'll get to that. But when we were Boy Scouts, we learned how to survive, and I was a redneck kid, so I eat that stuff up all the time. You make us what they call a solar still. You don't have any water. You dig a hole in the ground, you put a cup down there, and you put a piece of plastic over this hole. You put a rock dead center on it after you've put dirt around the plastic, and it makes this little funnel. Well, the sun comes out, the moisture from the ground comes up, beats on that plastic and drops down into that cup. Now you have drinkable water. Slow way to do it, but it's drinkable water. In a crawl space, that's exactly what you've got. Because you've got this term called hydrostatic pressure, where water comes down underneath the footer and pushes itself up. Technically, did you know you can die if you're in a 3-foot ditch and it collapses on you with dirt? They don't get you out in time. Do you know why? Because your blood makes a toxic chemical and will kill you. So these cave-ins on ditches are big deals. Well, if that's the case, and I've got a crawl space that's 3 foot high, my hydrostatic pressure comes in and pushes that water up. Mark Twain said this: you can attempt to manage a river, but you will never control a river. So the first thing on a wet crawl space with mold is I look at the negative grade patterns and have they extended to downspouts. That's the first thing I want to talk about. Then we'll talk about what do you want to accomplish. And now a vapor barrier, a 6 mil overlap seamed vapor barrier put in well will accomplish almost as well as a encapsulation system that's completely sealed off. If you put a dehumidifier in there too. Why do you have to have a dehumidifier? Because we produce conditioned air. Conditioned air, we set that dehumidifier at 50%. Because mold has to have 55% to grow. So if we set that dehumidifier on 50, now what I also tell people is this: if you've had a wet crawl space for say 12 years, and we've all seen that, right? This thing is saturated wet. You get in there, you got black, the seal plate, the rim joists, they're black, right? Is it mold or is it mildew? So it's already done a swab with a test and sent off to a lab, we don't really know. We can see mold growing, obviously, on something like that, but the type of mold it is, we just don't know. And it takes a lab to tell you that. Having said that, if we come in and we put this vapor barrier down and we put a dehumidifier, the first thing I tell my buyers is, listen, don't fix a crack or anything for about the first year. Because what's going to happen, and I'm not telling you it might, I'm telling you it will happen. This wood, when you add water to a sponge, what happens? She swells up. What happens when you take that water away from that sponge? She shrinks. Now, if they use pine shims as well as pine lumber in that crawl space, everything shrinks. So now we get minor cracking on interior doorways and hallways, things of that nature. Minor in nature. but it's going to happen. And then we may have to come back and put steel shims. You're supposed to use steel, hardwood, or composite when you shim a crawl space. Most builders put a little bitty thin wedge of pine in there. And that's like putting an elephant on top of a thimble. What do you think's gonna happen over 20 years? It crushes it. So we'll come in and put new shims in. So that's what I see in crawl spaces. Now, do I like vapor barriers? I have a 6 mil vapor barrier in my own personal home in Republic. I think they work very well. You put a dehumidifier down there, you can close your vents off, because you've been taught, open your vents in the summertime, close them in the wintertime, right? What everybody's taught. Well, if that's such a great idea and you have a basement home, why don't you open your doors and windows in your basement in the summertime? They're gonna say, well, you're an idiot. Yeah, well, in the state of Missouri, we have relative humidity of 105%. There's a term called stack effect. What does that mean? When I open this door, that door, bam, slammed shut that was open, because that stack effect, my house is breathing, just like this. So if I have relative humidity of 105%, and I've got open dirt with water in it down there, what's it sucking into my vents? 105%. That's how we create mold and mildew in houses. So I like a 6 mil vapor barrier, but I've also been around engineers that will tell you, oh, pull your vapor barrier back and put a fan on it and let it dry out. Great. What's going to happen when we put the vapor barrier back and it rains like a bat out of hell? We're still going to get the same thing. Water's going to be right there, but the water's underneath that plastic. Remember the solar still we were talking about? That's where the water is, because if it's clear plastic, you can crawl through them and see the droplets of water there. But the crawl space is fairly dry. So I do believe in vapor barriers, but there's always exceptions to the rule. When we sell something, I ask the customer, what do you want? Good, better, best. Because if it's your personal home you're gonna live in for the next 20 years, you probably want as good as you can get. If it's a rental home, yeah, let's just be okay good. So there's always that question of what are you trying to accomplish? That's very important to me. So if any of you call me, that's gonna be one of the things you'll hear me ask. What do you want to accomplish? What does your buyers want to accomplish? And then we can bid it accordingly. And you've met people, I'm sure, swear to God, if you hung them with a brand new roof, it gets you on Z. You know, that's just people. People want it done and they have expectations. Sometimes I can exceed and meet your expectations, sometimes I can't. I just can promise you, yes, ma'am. I just can promise you that I'll do my best to give you a fair and honest assessment. Okay? Any other questions? I'm sure, yes, sir.
Does home insurance ever cover any type of foundation repair if it, and that may be a bad question, I don't know, but have you ever had a situation where, you know, part of the home?
Yes and no, but it's always on a case by case basis, because for instance, if your basement floods and the foundation were to move, but you have a sump pump in there and it's in your policy, sometimes yes, on something like
Gotcha.
that. If it's a normal foundation issue because the builder didn't compact the soil or something, the answer would be no. So there's exceptions to every rule, but as a whole, no. Usually most foundation issues are never covered by insurance.
Okay.
But I always tell the customer, call, verify. Because the worst thing that can happen is they tell you no. Best thing can happen is they tell you, oh, yeah.
Okay.
So always call. Let's talk one little second about carbon fiber. Does anybody know what carbon fiber is? It's a space age material that's been used for a long time, but we're using it more and more. And where does that come into play? Let's say you go into a house that has a basement wall that's bowing, okay? I can put carbon fiber on this, which is a black Band-Aid looking material. But it's paper thin, so to speak. When I put that carbon fiber on there, I have the intensity of steel, like a 4-inch steel I-beam when I put that carbon fiber on. So it causes less intrusion in the home, faster to install, those kind of things. Can it be used on every application? No. For instance, if it's a walkout basement, I can't use carbon fiber on that wall if my walkout's on this wall. Because of the fact that the The weight load is over here. So if it's a normal basement, yes, I can use carbon fiber. Now, again, are there exceptions to the rules? Yes, there are. So it's case by case basis, but carbon fiber, that's the way you fix a bowed wall in a basement home. A lot of times now, again, exception to the rules. Do we have a block foundation? Is the block foundation, are the cell pockets? Do they have the concrete in them? Do they have the rebar in them? There's lots of exceptions to the rule. The carbon fiber is an important item in our arsenal to save money. I've done it on retaining walls outside. I've done it on interior walls. I've wrapped, has anybody ever been up to Lake the Ozarks and went to Lodge of the Four Seasons or the racquetball club used to be? They've got this huge roundabout with a big fountain. That fountain was falling apart. When I worked for another waterproofing company, I wrapped that whole thing in carbon fiber. Took me a solid week. Me and another guy wrapped it. So the other thing I bring to the table for your clients is I just am not an estimator. I'm an installer. I said it before, I don't go to sell people things, I go to fix problems. Most salesmen want to sell, and don't get me wrong, I'm a commissioned salesman, I make a living doing it. But I can't sell you something I don't think you need. All right. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay, you've got my cards, don't hesitate to call me, I won't remember anybody's name, tell you that straight up. Just tell me what you need and we'll get to you as quick as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Justin. I've been working in it. So, your office yesterday, said, they said that you guys were reaching out for my personal home, you need crawl space and obvious movement, so, just curious, if crawl space doesn't have a big barrier, I don't think I need to live by it. You know, I often seal the